everyone, I'm Dr. Anthony James here at the Thai Yoga Center and the SomaVeda College of Natural Medicine, located in beautiful Brooksville, Florida. Before I get into the video lesson today, I wanted to take a minute to remind you that we have incredible professional development programs suitable for people who have never been in the healthcare business before and who want to be, and suitable for people who are in the healthcare business and don't like it anymore, which is completely understandable. We have both 5 different college degrees, we have 5 different certificate programs, entry-level, Ayurveda to teacher, and many other programs, including our online programs. So if you want to move to the good side and create a path towards healing for yourself and your family, I want you to send me an email to Dr. J at nativeaic@somaveda.com. That's nativeaic@somaveda.com, or call me for a personal counseling session on the options available to you. My phone number is on the ThaiYogaCenter.com website and on Natural Wellness Solutions Tribal Clinic, also located at ThaiYogaCenter.com. There's a couple of other things that I want to mention. Also on our website at ThaiYogaCenter.com, we have a certified practitioner directory where you may be able to locate some SomaVeda practitioners near you and make an appointment for a SomaVeda Therapeutic Day protocol, which can very well address pre- and comorbidities that many people are concerned with in a completely holistic, functional, natural, non-invasive way. We can help you with everything from stress to managing your diet. Okay, so there are also some timely articles on the cerveza bug and related topics that may blow your mind, or at least give you a little bit of enlightenment or some practical, functional, natural medicine strategies to deal with the current situation that most people are finding themselves in. And trust me, if you're not an expert by now, you need to be. You need to get on the bus and become an expert in dealing with the issues, both emotional, psychological, energetic, physiological, metabolic, etc., that are the health concerns that everyone is dealing with right now. I'm happy to help you do that. All right, take care. See you in the next video. My email again is nativeaic@somaveda.com to get a hold of me for more information on our exciting programs. Until then, God bless, enjoy the lesson, and I'll be talking to you again soon. For-profit-based medicine, the solution is to not do that anymore and to avail yourself of the practice of real medicine, of true medicine. And true medicine begins with nutrition. True medicine begins with food. True medicine begins with artful thinking and consideration of diet and nutrition and food. True medicine is about then artfully applying the application of food to specific illnesses and specific conditions which are the opposite of well. Eat what makes you healthy. Eat what makes you right. Eat less of what makes you not healthy. Eat less of what makes you not right. Does that mean that there's a perfect diet? And that's why I show the documentary Eating and why we do these other discussions. Because the one thing I want to come across is that there is no perfect diet. In all of the centuries of investigation and research into diet and nutrition, the perfect diet has not been discovered. It's not a vegan diet, it's not a vegetarian diet, it's not a paleo diet, it's not a keto diet, it's not a nada. The difference between us and even the Western nutrition people like Mike Anderson or like Gary Tunsky, Dr. Tunsky, or whoever, the difference between us is we research traditional and indigenous medicine. And traditional and indigenous medicine says that we're not all the same, that we're different body types. In Ayurveda, we say there's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. We are different body types. And the subgunas of Vata, Pitta, Pitta, Kapha, Kapha, Vata, and VPK, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, that were 7 different body types. But then there are other body types. In traditional Thai medicine, there's also the theory of the 12 animal types. And so there's the boar, and there's the rabbit, and there's the rooster, and there's the snake, and there's the tiger, and there's 12 different animal types. And so what you would say in traditional Thai medicine is you might be a Vata bear, or you might be a Vata tiger, or you might be a Vata snake, or you might be a Vata rat. Wat. Nobody wants to be the wat. You might be unfortunately, it's based on when you're born. Like which animal you are. It's like it's the same as the Chinese menu. You know, you go to the Chinese menu and they have the fancy little menu, paper menu, and it's got the Chinese zodiac. And this is the year of the, what is this year, Noi?
Dog.
Year of the dog? All right, homework. Look it up. What year are we in of the Chinese zodiac? What year are we in? Okay, so what animal you are is based on what year you were born. Dosha is based on qualities. Okay, so in other words, the idea of zodiacal types is that every year the planet is in rotation around the sun, and the sun is in rotation through the galaxy around a point of proximal called Alpha Centauri. Okay, and so our sun is in an ellipse around another sun, which we think is a black hole. Okay, so our solar system entirely, it has its orbit, which is called the Great Orbit. Okay, 26,000 years it takes for our solar system to make one orbit around its sun. Okay, and then within that we have the minor orbits of the planets. European astrology is concerned with the extrasolar celestial orientations and galaxies that have names like Orion's belt, okay, that are the 12 houses of the zodiac. The Chinese 12 animal calendar is that, but interpreted in the Chinese culture's way. Thais have it exactly identically as the Chinese do. That's a crossover between Chinese culture and Thai culture, for example. It also exists in Indian culture. It's called, in Ayurveda, it's called Jyotish astrology. Okay? Now the difference between Jyotish astrology and Western astrology is Western astrology looks at the 12 houses of the zodiac and the celestial systems that they represent, that they're represented by. The archer, the fish, the crab, the, so on and so forth. Whereas Ayurveda astrology is only concerned with the local solar system, in fact, just the planets. The planets and the sun. It's not concerned with what's outside the solar system. And the idea in Ayurveda is that the planets in our solar system actually have a direct physical impact on us. They have a direct physical impact. And of course, everybody knows that the moon rules the tides, that the whole motion of all the water on the planet and all the water in the oceans and the tides of all the oceans on the planet, the only reason they exist is because of the influence of the moon, right? You know that? You know that, right? Okay? Well, you're water, aren't you? You are mostly water. So all the water in you is cyclical and influence and proportion and symmetry and dominance and ebb and flow. You have internal tides, just like the Gulf has a tide. You can look up the Gulf tide chart and it'll tell you low tide, high tide every single day, exact to the minute, where the water will be in the Gulf. We keep track of it with our boat because we don't want to try to go out or come in to the channel at low tide, because maybe our boat will get stuck on the sand. And then we have to wait until the high tide to be able to make our progress, right? And maybe we damage the boat while we get stuck like that. So we watch the charts. If I'm going out on the boat, I look at the low tide, high tide, and make sure that our plan for the day coincides with not the low tide. Okay, however we're going to do it. Well, guess what? Your fluid in your body is every bit as cyclical right now this minute as the water in the Gulf, which moderates 6 or 10 or 12 feet from morning to night every single day. But you don't feel it because it's a force for the trees. It's normal for you. Okay? So in Jyotish astrology, the moon is super important. Because I can actually, with my naked eye, I can see the moon affecting you. And I realize over time it affects more people some ways than others. And so some people are lunatics. In other words, their hormones change in proportional to the lunar cycle, ebb or flow, waxing or waning of the moon. Their hormones change. And as a reflection of the hormone change, their attitudes change. And they think a certain way in the morning, and they think a different way in the evening, and they think a different day on the waxing moon, and they think a different way on the waning moon, and they think differently in the full moon, and you can see it. If you actually kept a diary of watching your friend, you'd see that they have a cyclical behavior pattern. And there are certain things that they believe at one time of the month that if you accuse them of believing that at another, they'll deny it. There's certain things they believe at the full moon that they don't believe at the other point. So 13 times a year they lose their mind and don't know it because it's a force for the trees. It is a fact, this has been studied by social scientists, that most riots happen 2 days before, on, or 2 days after the full moon. It's a fact. And that riots are cyclical in violence. And all the rioters think that it's on their own initiative and they're doing what I want and you're not the boss of me and that's why I'm rioting. But they're not looking at the lunar calendar and they're not tracking the number of participants and the outpouring of violence as it correlates to full moon cycles. But this has been studied for centuries. In police science, and there's actually such a thing as police science, one of the things, Kim probably took a course in this, that all police stations have more arrests on the full moon. People are more violent on the full moon. There are more assaults, there are more rapes, there are more robberies, there are more murders 2 days before, on, or 2 days after a full moon, and good police departments in major metropolitan areas base their staff on a lunar calendar, plus other events. Literally, you have to follow the moon cycle to be a good policeman, because your community is going to lose their mind, relatively speaking. And those who are least conscious and most susceptible and most hormonal will literally murder people when they're in that state. And that's called lunacy. And that's called being a lunatic, which means adversely affected by the moon. But do you know there's a Mars tick, there's a Venus tick, there's a Saturn tick, but because they're further away, they're bigger cycles. So like the Saturn cycle is 7 years. And it has 7 intermediate stages from apihedron to perihedron. Okay? And that follows the cycle of the chakras, by the way. That's why every chakra is actually a representation of 1 year of a Saturn returns, of a 7-year Saturn cycle. Most people don't know that. Well, you do now. I just told you. That's what a chakra is. It's also another way of indicating where are you in that Saturn cycle, because it rules everything positive and everything negative about your character. Saturn rules character. Moon is immediate. Moon is immediate, your immediate inclination to act and your emotional state right now this minute. That's moon. That's lunar. That's first chakra. And it's always about security and survival. Well, guess what? I'll throw a bone out to you, a little goose egg, okay? All foods have an astrological correlation as medicine. Every food that you can think of, every food that you can name has a planet that rules it. Traditionally, and that was determined 1,000 years ago. You can get into that. It's kind of interesting, okay? But just in eating in general. So we believe that we're victims of nature in the sense that the moon will make me moody or less moody based on its cycle. I can ameliorate the effect of the moon by changing what I'm eating during the lunar cycle. And, for example, at the peak of the lunar cycle, I can fast. And I can do intermittent fasting during the peaks of the lunar cycle, top and bottom, waxing or waning, okay? I can change my diet, and I can actually have an effect on my hormones or my natural inclination to follow the wicked natural cycle of invisible forces that make me not be myself twice a month. And that is one of the most original forms of medicine, is guiding people in eating appropriately, not just for the season, which, by the way, is also astrologically determined. The whole point of building, do you think priests built Stonehenge? Oh my God. Do you believe that? You probably do. It's like History Channel level understanding, right? No, they built these astrolabes, okay, these Paleolithic astrolabes, to determine solstice, winter solstice, summer solstice, you know, the peak seasons, and the rotation of the Earth in relation to the sun, in relation to all the other planets which are being tracked. That's why there's 150 posts that are buried in the ground around Stonehenge that you can't see, okay? Those are to position the planets, not just the sun. They are the littler measurements where we can track the movement of Venus, for example, at the same time as we're looking at the moon, at the same time as we're looking at the sun. And the reason why we did that is because I can predict your behavior based on what I see on my astrolabe, to some degree or another. And on a society-wide basis, it's more accurate. On an individual basis, less accurate. On a societal group basis, more accurate. And so the doctors needed to know that information to tell everybody what to eat and how to eat to modify the effects of the solar and celestial relationships. And so they did. And they also told you what to plant and when, so that that food would be ripe and ready for harvest and ready to be produced when it was needed, to keep you sane and to keep you healthy. Now, we're distanced from all of this, and now we think of food and as nutrition as a quantification of numbers. You know, this food has antioxidants, and this percentage of antioxidants, and kelp has more of certain antioxidants than broccoli, right? Or super blue-green algae has more than kelp. Or, you know, I have one. Japanese shiso claims to be the highest of all antioxidant dark green leafy vegetables of all kinds, including sea vegetables, according to Japanese scientists. How many people here have had sushi before? All right, probably your sushi had a green piece of plastic with a sawtooth edge, you know, as part of the garnish, a little green piece of plastic, right, on your sushi plate for your roll, for your nigiri, for your fudumaki, for your, you know, and you probably like, why do they put this piece, it's next to the ginger and the horseradish, it's next to the wasabi, there's this little sawtooth piece of plastic. Okay, the reason that's there, there's actually a reason why that's there. The reason that's there is from the invention of the Paleolithic practice of eating sushi. The Japanese people knew that fish have bacteria, and that sometimes, depending,
you will grow to be tall, staring out over miles of land without it, but wanting to build up walls.